Land, land, and more land. How and when did I discover and accept God's best for me? What transpired over the last 6 months? And most importantly, was this 6-month journey looking for land necessary? Well, today I share with you the answers to these questions and the door I have walked through to my landing zone. Hope you'll join me. Linda here, Serene and Simple Life. I am so excited that you have decided to join me today so that I could provide you an update of where I am with looking for land and what I have decided. Before I reveal what's going on and where I'm headed, I would like to give those of you who are new to my channel a little backdrop about what I've been doing and some of the bullet points of what I have done looking for land. I have lots of notes here. It's partially to keep me on track and partially so I don't forget some of the key points that I want to make today. So I hope you don't mind. I'll be looking down and I'm looking into the sun so that we could have like a bright screen here. Anyways, over the last 6 months on 2 separate occasions, I have gone searching for unrestricted property. Now I do have many videos why I decided to go looking for unrestricted property and what all it entailed. So we won't go into those details today, but I am going to give you the details of the journey. I was looking for land back in November and October of 2020, and then I went to work in Florida for 4.5 months and took a little break from looking at land because I had not yet earned enough money or the money that I thought I needed to buy land. So I went back to work to save a little bit more. And then come March, I came back to Tennessee to complete what I thought was going to complete looking for land and making a purchase. Over the course of those 2 different times, which probably entailed maybe around a month total, I looked at 43 plus properties, whether it be plats of land, lots, pieces of land, land for sale, whatever it was. It ended up being over 43 different places that I actually physically went to. And I took many, many notes along the way, and I will proof in the pudding here. Yeah, this is all notes, phone numbers, places I went, different things that happened along the way, prices, things that sold, things that went off the market that I hoped maybe would go back on the market. Even a list of cities and towns in Tennessee and their score as far as safety. Oh my gosh, 10, 13, 20. I dated this one. The top 20 safest cities. I mean, I am a note taker. I am a detail girl. Look at this. Crazy and crazy amounts of notes. I, all along, felt in my heart that I really, really, really did not want to lease land. I didn't want to rent from somebody. Only thing I wanted to do was buy a little plot of land where I could put a tiny home. So the journey began. I spoke some of the things that I did. Well, after I went from Florida, then I call this when I came back to Tennessee, I experienced some closed doors. I was back in contact with a couple different people, and yeah, the doors kept closing. I had spoken with many realtors as I called them about their listing. I asked them pertinent questions pertaining to my must-haves list, unrestricted, size restrictions, the style of home that I want, a tiny cabin, whether there was neighbors or not. I didn't want neighbors close by. Was the lot cleared? Water, septic, on and on. And the further I got into my search, the more detailed I became in explaining to people on the phone what it was I was looking for, my wants and needs, my absolute must-haves. So I was able to narrow the search. Back in November, it was just a fun journey. Look and see. Maybe there'll be a needle in the haystack, but wasn't too concerned because I knew that I had to work a little bit more. But when it came spring here, I really got down to what is out there. And I looked at 13 plus more lots, which I just finished a 5-week series showing you what I was looking at, giving you my feelings raw and real after I looked at a piece of land. It just felt like over and over doors were closing. I had gone to land that was sold the next day. It was down in a swampy area. That was back in the fall. Some of you may know I referred to Charles' land. I talked with him again in the spring, and I found out that he couldn't meet my price, so I needed to just let go. These are like the bullet short ends of things. I had looked at land a second time that was in like a pasture area or across from a pasture with a junkyard neighbor next door. I went back to that. I showed you that. Meeting Fred that I had met at sunset, him and his wife. We had many email, phone conversations. I called him again in the spring. Hey, I'm back in the area. And his response, the short and sweet end of it was 6 months, nothing had changed as far as him being able to provide me a plat of land. So there was just so many closed doors. And I kind of decided to relate it to like back in the day when I would do coffee dating. I was a serial coffee dater for a while. 40 to 50 coffee dates, maybe over the course of 6 months or a year. And always came back to, this is not working. But then again, I would think, well, this coffee date, maybe this is the one. So my land search was kind of in that same realms. I don't know, call me a slow learner, or I just like to go down the road a bit and explore. You know, when I met Fred, I thought it was a divine appointment. He was a godly man, and who knows, there still may be something to our meeting down the road. But for now, that door is closed. And Charles, he was another godly man, and he had beautiful land, and I had, after seeing so much that was not fit for me, I figured, well, maybe Charles's land was it. Well, that turned out to be different. And there was many ideas that I processed more than once. I crunched numbers over and over on how my bank account would stay in the black and I could buy land and develop it. And as many of you already know, once you buy land, I knew this going in, but I didn't fully write it down and research it. Then there's the well and the septic and the driveway and the clearing and the permits and on and on. And I don't get discouraged easily. I just want God's will to be done for my life. So I stuck with it. I just stuck with it. I was playing stretch the dollar in my mind without going broke, to tell you the truth. Stretch the dollar. Oh, septic might only be $5,000, but maybe it'll be $7,000, maybe it'll be $3,000. Just kind of, I don't know, optimistic and hoping, and knowing that God was in the details. I considered a small loan at one point. Not for very long, but I did consider it, $10,000 or less to maybe help make ends meet. Well, thankfully, I quickly nixed that idea. It was going to be cash or not at all. That was my constant, and it was a thought when the devil wanted to wreak havoc on my finances and bring me down again that I thought about taking out a loan. And I also considered buy land now. Why not buy land now, work for a year, and maybe get my cabin next year? That became a thought also. And then the epiphany moment came. I don't know how else to explain it, except that I went back to lot number 1 that I referred to in my recent video series that I did in March, that 5-part series. That day I had looked at lot number 1, I made a comment. Is it true that you always come back to the first thing you look at? I was excited. I was truly, truly excited about lot number 1. You got to watch the series to know what I'm talking about, or at least the first one. Well, 2 days after I had looked at that land, I went back a second time. I said, you know what, I just need to put my feet on the ground by myself with the Lord and in the evening and see how this land feels. Wow. A wow moment, an epiphany. I didn't realize the significance of that encounter till looking back, till I went back. On occasion, I just felt displaced. I would go to land and I would be like, I'd drive away and I would like be, Lord, I don't know, just feel displaced. I feel alone, and not like a poor me lonely, just kind of there was an encapsulation, if that's even a word, a feeling of lonely around me. I felt vulnerable. When I went back to land number 1, and that's not from back in the fall, but recent, it was eerily quiet. I was looking for a view. Behind me was 3 or 4 old sheds that need to be torn down. There was a house behind me that was vacant, that most likely the realtor said would have to be a cash buyer because they wouldn't give you a loan for something like that. And something about going back to that land a second time, the mountains were way in the distance. I said, you know what? This is not working. This is just not working. And at that moment, I didn't know what would be working, but I just knew that going around and looking at different plots of land was not working for me. It wasn't working on paper, financially, it wasn't working mentally, it wasn't working emotionally. There was just something that was missing. So I went back to Happy Haven and I started revisiting some of my notes. The not giving up part. Always too soon to quit. I've talked about that before. And I looked down at my notes and I had written down a little place that I should go visit. Drum roll please. Dun, da, da. I said, okay, I'm going to visit this online. It was a tiny community. With like-minded tiny home lovers. I know what some of you were thinking. She's going back to where she first started. No. Those thoughts still remain. It was way too much for me, way too much as far as amount of people and physical proximity and those kinds of things. This was something new. So I said, you know what the heck? I'm on my way to Texas. It's in that direction. I'm going to go and take a look. A tiny home community with like-minded tiny home people. Not overly crowded, not stacked on each other. So I did. That's what I did. And then the revelation came. Got some notes here to stay on track. What God revealed to me. He revealed to me to let it go. The owning land versus leasing. Yeah, I said it. Leasing. And when I close those doors, I always have something better. I always have something better for you. If I choose to listen and not try to kick open the closed door. Charles' land, Fred's land, realtors, even though I was getting more discerning. I wasn't looking at stuff down in the holler anymore. And God said to me, trust me. What you think you need and what I know you need. This is nothing new. But when you pray for and you ask for my direction, you will receive it. I don't know that too many days have gone by where I didn't wake up or go to bed at night saying, God, your will be done. Show me where you want me to be, what you want me to do, how you want me to make a difference. And the devil is in the details, and so is God. His way is always better than my way. And he has been with me, and he has been speaking to me this entire season. He's fulfilled all my needs and desires by the experience that I had looking for land. And he's never early. God is never late. He's always right on time. So you may ask, what was I thinking? God had to take me on this journey of discovery to appreciate to the fullest what he had handpicked for me. Let me read that again. God had to take me on this journey of discovery to appreciate to the fullest what he had handpicked for me. A year ago, 6 months ago, I would not have seen it. I would not have seen what God had for me. You know what? This community has amenities. And I have always loved and appreciated amenities. Beautiful amenities I had when I lived in Delaware, when I owned a home and leased the land. Beautiful amenities when I was in Arizona and I leased the land. I owned my own home. But it had never come into focus until God had completed taking me on this land journey. All right. So why 6 months? Kind of in the same vein of what I was just talking about. Why 6 months? Why did it take me this long to face the facts? Face the facts that I couldn't afford land and a tiny cabin at the same time and pay cash. That's in a nutshell. Not only afford the land, but afford all of the things that go with it, the clearing or the septic or just running the electric or just running the water, even if the septic was already there. It was always something extra. Well, I wait on God, though at the same time he waits on me to open my eyes and face the facts of giving me new circumstances, new ideas, thoughts, revelations, the aha moments, and he puts the people in my path. And indeed he did. Those notes that I had taken several months before from doing my research on this particular community. So I'm going to leave you with, for this time, what I think I've already answered: was the journey necessary? Absolutely. I've always been growing and learning and willing to change, and I choose to be in God's will. We're all different. Sometimes it only takes days, sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years. But eventually, if you stick with it and you rely on God to show you, He does. I hope this is encouraging to you today to look at your own life, what's going on, where you're at, what your hopes and desires and plans are, and waiting on God. So, in case you're confused right now, the bottom line is I am going to be leasing land, and I am going to own my own tiny cabin on wheels. As my girlfriend reminded me, Linda, you don't like to stay put. This season, signing a lease, it's for 5 years unless you find someone to fill your space. But at least for a year, I will be leasing. I will have a beautiful community with amenities. We're talking a pool, a walking trail, a doggy park, a rock garden, ping pong, hammocks, horseshoes, so many things, all kinds of amenities. And we won't have all the expenses that would have drained my account, put me in debt, or, I don't know, further closed the door to having land at all. In a future video, I'll explain to you about how I am rationalizing the land lease and really what I'm spending versus what the charge is up front. For today, I'm going to leave you with good things take time. 6 months is really not a lot of time, and really the course of 3 weeks, 2 weeks of looking at land. I went hard and fast on it. I was diligent and I looked daily and I stuck with it. And you can't rush God. I've had things in my life that have taken years. Restored relationships took years, not weeks. And I know that there are people out there, many people give up right before the blessing. I'm excited for what the future holds. And I look forward to next week. I'm going to share with you what I learned about myself on this journey, and basically what I knew all along. Sit and Share Sunday for the next several weeks, sharing with you blessings and joy in the journey. Your journey and my journey.